Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Tour Operator Growth Podcast. This is episode 5, and today we are diving into paid ads. If you've been listening so far, you know that we've been breaking down the ResMark growth engine, and we are still in the dreaming stage. This is where paid ads comes up a lot because it's one of those places, is an opportunity to get in front of your ideal guest early in the journey. But before we get tactical, I want to start with a story that happened inside our own business. So, Greg, I don't even think you know about this yet, but last week we had a discovery call come through our website. So, for our audience, when somebody books a call, when somebody goes to Resmark Systems or resmarkweb.com and wants to learn more about our services, we try to get them on a discovery call. Basically, it's a short 15-minute high-level overview to understand your tour business a little bit better and to see if we're a good fit for you. So every time one of those discovery call gets booked, we consider it a marketing qualified lead. And I get really excited. I go in on the back end to see where that lead came from. So this was last week. At a glance, that lead, it looked like it came from organic search, Google SEO. And that's what I attributed it, marked it as on our metric sheets, Greg, was Google, right? SEO. But that doesn't tell the full story. When I looked a little deeper, I saw that person actually came into our system 2 months earlier through a pay-per-click ad. They clicked the ad, filled the pop-up out on our website, joined the email list, and then they just sat there. They waited. 2 months later, they Googled a keyword. We popped up organically. They clicked that result, and that is what booked the call. So if I ever just looked at last attribution, I'd probably say, Greg, that our Google ads were not effective. But I don't. I track and look at the whole journey. So in this case, last week, Google Ads started the relationship, valuable content helped guide them through, and then organic closed it. By close, I mean book the discovery call. And that is exactly, I think, why paid ads feel confusing and not effective for a lot of tour operators, because we judge them by that final click only instead of the full journey. But that doesn't mean every tour operator should be doing Google Ads either. All right. So, Greg, do you think are paid ads actually worth it for tour operators in 2026?
Absolutely. Paid ads are a great way to, generate leads through different means. We've talked about omni-channel presence. Google Ads paid ads. That's one of those channels, right? So it really comes down to what are you doing as a business? Where are you at? And are you ready to do paid ads? So they work really well when you already have a solid business plan. You know who you're going after, who you're wanting to focus on, and you have a strong, niche or keywords that you're going after. If you have something that's like super specific or like low demand maybe for your product or weak positioning, maybe your website isn't optimized yet, then it might not be the right time. One thing to consider as well is like Google ads specifically, but all ads, they might not be worth it if your business is limited in supply. So let's say you can only take 200 visitors a year. Maybe you're on a dude ranch or something and you can only take 200 visitors a year. Google ads aren't going to miraculously make that 2000, right? You can only take 200. So if you're already at capacity, don't run Google ads. You don't need them. If you can take 200 people a year, but you're at, 95 people a year, Google ads might be a great way to start to bring more people in so that you can sell out. So there's that aspect, but then also if it's a low demand tour, like I came up with this example of a 3-hour tour focused on 19th century canal lock engineering, right? Nobody's searching for that. So if you might have a very niche product, which is really cool. But if people aren't searching for that, they definitely aren't going to find it on Google ads, at least their search ad. Right. And so that's where maybe different types of ads, would work. Maybe a video ad would work, where someone's watching a video that's related somewhat to your type of tour and your ad pops up. But you just have to be aware of like, what are people searching? And am I going to spend money on search terms that might be really low volume?
I think something else too, we should consider is, and I've said this a few times in webinars and whatnot, but what are your revenue goals and where are you at now? So if your revenue goal is, let's just for easy math, say we'll say $1 million you want to hit for 2026, and you're on track to hit $500,000, and you're going to hit $500,000 because you already have a good referral process in place. You have a strong SEO foundation, you're doing social media, you're generating leads from other sources, but now you have a $500,000 gap to fill. A great way to fill that is through paid ads. So you think about it, how else are you going to fill that gap if you've already maxed out all of those other opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great example. One of our clients, Virgin Island Eco Tours, they do paid ads, and they have in the last month, I believe it was, they spent $3,000 in ad spend, and they got over $31,000 in tracked revenue that month. So that's a 1,000% increase, 10x return on their ad spend. They wouldn't have done that if their tours aren't being searched, those keywords, if they didn't have a website that was optimized for conversion and some of the things that we're going to talk about throughout this podcast. So, are paid ads worth it? Absolutely, but not for everyone and maybe not all the time. So, make sure you understand kind of where you're at in the process and what makes it good timing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Because one of the important things here is like it depends kind of on the stage that your business is in or if Google Ads make sense, right? Or paid ads in general. Just know that if I say Google Ads, I'm talking about paid ads in general. I do more with Google Ads than I do social media.
I do more
Nikki's
with
our
social
social
media
media.
ads.
Yeah, so she might talk more about social media. I might talk more about Google Ads.
Yeah.
But that that stage that your business is in is really going to determine, when it makes sense and when it doesn't. So let's say you're a new business, you've done the keyword research, you know that, okay, you have really strong keywords that people search for all the time, but you have a brand new website. The thing I would do is make sure my website is set up for conversion. And then I would start ads because your SEO is going to grow over time. It's going to take a while. But Google Ads is a lot quicker to start seeing those results, right? You're going to get in, you're going to start seeing results at a much faster scale than your SEO results, even if you just have a killer SEO strategy because your domain's new, your website's new, all of that. So it's a really good place to kind of build the growth while you're building out the growth of your website as well.
I mean, technically, it's pay to play. So if you want to play and you're willing to pay, then you will generate leads. Now, don't think of it as instant, though. You're not going to pop those Google ads up and a week later be generating a bunch of leads or bookings. You have to give Google time, or even Facebook, the algorithm time to warm up and understand your audience and figure out what's working, what's not working. It's really important to test. It's really important to act on what's working and optimize it accordingly, and change the landing pages. And you should have specific landing pages and funnels for your ads if you actually want your ads to convert. Generating ad copy and the actual content for the ad itself, whether in Facebook or in Google, that's just one part of it. The other What happens after that is there's so many other things involved. If you want to have success in your paid ads, you can't just throw money and expect it to be successful, because Google and Facebook, Meta, will take your money regardless. They're not going to be kind to you. They're just going to take your money and say, "Oh, their landing pages aren't built for conversion. Oh well." So,
Yeah. And I brought up if you're a new business, right? But most of you listening are probably established businesses. And if you're not running Google Ads right now, don't run them yet unless you truly understand your ideal guest. Who is it that you're targeting? Who do you want to bring in? Which tours actually convert? You might have multiple tours, and some of them are going to convert better through Google Ads than others. And that's important to know. So you're not just wasting money on something that maybe people aren't searching for as much, or maybe there's not as much demand for that other product. Um, and then also that your website can close the sale. So whether you're directing them to just your homepage or a general page on your website, or you have a landing page, make sure that the messaging between the ads and the landing page tie together, but then also that all the information needed is there as well. So if I'm searching a term, I hit a Google ad, I go to your website and it's confusing to book, probably not going to book. So make sure that that information is there. Try to understand what your guest is thinking, what questions they might be asking, so that you can answer them right away for them as they're kind of coming into your website. One last point I want to make on this too is paid ads make sense when you're set up for success to take on more bookings. If you're struggling right now to bring on more clients, then don't run Google Ads. Because if you can't take more bookings tomorrow, like let's say 10 people booked for tomorrow, and that causes you to scramble and you're not going to be able to provide the great experience that you usually provide, then don't do it. Get that infrastructure in a place where you're going to be able to scale that up before you start bringing people in, or else that's just going to cause people to have bad experiences.
And you don't want a bad review because you have too many bookings and you can't handle the amount of, bookings that are coming through, because that will just tarnish your reputation. And that is so much harder to win back when you start getting a bunch of one-star reviews and bad word of mouth because you didn't have the processes. And like Greg said, you said the infrastructure in place to handle that. I wanna ask, so when should tour operators not use paid ads? I think we hit on this a little bit, um, but when do you think they should just we do not wanna be running paid ads right now or in the near future?
Yeah, I wouldn't run ads if the margins are too thin. You need to be able to test your Google ads. And if you're spending, a dollar per conversion, which would be extremely low, bad example, but let's say you're doing a dollar per conversion and you only earn a dollar and 1 cent. Like that's not going to really do much for you. And so find ways to increase that margin so that you can actually make it worth your time and money. Because someone's spending time on optimizing your ads that doesn't usually get accounted into the margin. So make sure that it's worth doing. Um, but then if you are going to do it, don't just set it and forget it. Ads are not something that's like you just set it there, you never look at it again and hope it does the best. Same with your website, same with all marketing, right? You should
Yeah.
constantly be looking at it and improving, testing, and working on it. Now, that might not be totally feasible to always be looking at it, but make sure you understand what's happening with them and try to improve them as regularly as possible.
Yeah, and that's where it helps when you're working with a team who knows what they're doing, so they know what metrics to look at and how often to optimize. I mean, I usually go into our Facebook ads daily, Greg, to optimize them, and I usually don't touch them. I just make sure that they're running effectively, and at some point, we need to change the creatives and change everything, so I do that at least once a month, 3 to 4 weeks, I'm gonna change some things up, create new campaigns, change the budgets up. But you need to be in there quite often if you want them to be effective. So, um, I wanted to touch on something that I found interesting this morning. So, why do paid ads work for some tour operators and they fail for others? And I think we hit on a few things like um, some people are just running paid ads and forgetting it. Some don't have the right budget. Some don't have a website or landing pages, I should say, built for conversion. But I was watching a video this morning. Neil Patel actually did a study. So Neil Patel is a great SEO kind of expert for digital marketing agencies. A lot of people follow him as an influencer. And he said 60% of profitable marketers will use a funnel. So not just a landing page, but we're bringing them down some sort of funnel. About 60% use multiple payment options. So it's not just, pay cash or pay by this one credit card. We're giving them multiple options, PayPal, different types of payment providers. 48% have email sequences for the non-buyer. So what are we doing for those people who went off of our paid ad? Just like I told my story this morning, how that person booked a discovery call through a paid ad, but between when he sorry, not through a paid ad, through organic, but when he clicked on that paid ad and then when he that time between him booking the discovery call, he received several emails from us because he signed up on that pop-up for our newsletter. 42% have multi-step checkouts. 36% have optimized copy for specific personas. So when we talk about our ICP, I do believe you can have different personas within that ICP. So, for example, we have a ghost tour operator that we work with. And on the website, we have different landing pages for different groups of people. A landing page for the bachelorette girls. We have a landing page for the newly engaged. We have a landing page for, different types of groups. I guess bachelorette would be newly engaged, but you know what I mean, corporate and whatnot. I forget what they all are, but we have specific copy talking specifically to them. So if we're running a Google ad in front of the bachelorettes, we want to have specific landing pages for the bachelorettes. And then anyways, just going through a few of these other things that Neil was talking about was a lot are using video on their landing pages and have descriptive text on their landing pages. So all that to say is people who don't have successful ads don't even have a few of these things in place. And I think that that's why it fails for a lot of tour operators. You have to do the things that we know works.
Yeah, and today we're talking specifically about, paid ads, but think omnipresence, right? If you're not doing other parts of your marketing, your Google ads, your Facebook ads, they're gonna fail. If like we asked the question of, at what stage should people does paid ads start making sense? Or why do they fail? If you aren't in a place where you can nurture your leads, then don't run them yet because you're just throwing away money. They're going to come in. They might not book right away. Like Nikki told at the beginning here, you said, hey, we got someone that came in 2 months ago and then they came back. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs if we were nurturing them and that's what
We
brought them
were.
back. I assume we were.
We
But
were.
if not, there's a good chance that they saw the ad, they leave, they go somewhere else, right? But that nurturing is what's going to keep them coming back because we all know, especially in tourism, it's not very often that people are just coming in, choosing something and immediately booking it right there,
Especially
unless
multi-day
it's
tours.
yeah, especially multi-day tours or destination tours, right? Like if I'm in the area, I wanna do a tour near my house, that's different, but if I'm traveling, I'm planning that out usually, unless it's a last minute thing. So, make sure you have all the other pieces in place, which we'll talk about along this podcast more. Um, but just assume that we're saying that throughout the rest of what we're talking about too.
And if you don't, you're just wasting money. You're just throwing money at something and hoping to get something you're never going to get. Those other things have to be in place.
One thing I wanna bring up with Google Ads, Facebook ads, everything is and I kinda mentioned it with if you're not ready to take on, more people in your business, then it's probably not a good time to run ads. But that's also another reason that, ads fail is if you're not set up properly, then Google Ads are just going to expose whatever problems you have versus, like, make it more successful. So, a lot of these things you gotta figure out before and set that foundation so that you're really set up for success.
Yeah. Why do you think paid ads feel like a gamble for tour operators. And they're like, I don't know what I'm going to get out of this. I'm just going to spend a couple $1,000s a month and hope that I get something.
Yeah, I thought of an analogy for this. As a dad, and I think most dads do this, I'm sure moms do it too, but dads definitely do it way more, is my kids are constantly, like, leaving the fridge door open. They're leaving the door to the house open, and it's, like, 20 degrees. The other day, it was 11 degrees here at my house, Fahrenheit, freezing cold, and they're just, like, walking in, leaving the door open for 5 minutes, and I can start feeling the cold air creep in, right? And so here I am paying for heat in my house, and it's just going right outside, and the classic, thing that dads like to say is like, "Are we heating the whole neighborhood?" Because it's just going right out the door. And it's the same with your paid ads. If you're not, setting the right expectations, if you're not setting yourself up for success, shutting those doors, tightening the windows, everything right, then you're just going to throw your money away, which is why then it feels like a gamble. So you want to make sure that one, you have a plan. Two, you know how to execute that plan, or you hire people that know how to execute that plan. They might be the ones coming up with that plan as well. But then also having those clear expectations of what you're going to achieve with your Google ads, knowing that there is risk involved. You know, when I had kids, maybe I didn't understand it, but I knew there were risks involved. They were going to leave the door open. I can remind them, but it's always going to happen. So I'm always going to waste some money in heating my house, but I have an action plan of reminding them over and over and over to be responsible about it. And so that helps, them be more successful. So it's the same with Google ads. Don't just set it and forget it, but continually execute that strategy, if
I
that
like
makes sense.
I like that analogy, Greg. Another thing too is be strategic and have a plan about your budget, especially. And that's where it helps to talk to experts. And a lot of people will just give you some advice on whether or not that's a good budget for your market and taking a look at like the cost per click for the keywords you want to bid on and whatnot. I talked to a tour operator not too long ago, and it was just through Facebook, and she saw a couple of the videos I was posting, so she just reached out and she was like, I think one of the places that I lack is, or one of the opportunities I'm not involved in is Google ads, right? I have all the other things in place, but I'm not running any Google ads. I never have, but I'm thinking about running $500 a month in Google ads. And she offers a multi-day international kind of trip, and we took a look at her cost per click and at her current website structure and pages. And I said, you're just going to be wasting your money. And that's all she wanted to spend. She was not going to spend anything more. So I said, just you're better off putting that money into like an email strategy or something else. But right now, like, you are not going to get anywhere with $500 a month in your market for Google ads. So have those honest conversations with yourself, and just know that budget matters in the success of your Google ads and Facebook ads. Now, Facebook ads usually you don't have to spend as much money on, but because it's a different kind of expectation, it's more about brand awareness and a lot of campaigns that we're running versus Google ads. We want the leads. But just know that that can deter the success, or, make your campaign successful or not if you have the dialed in budget. Now, that's not to say you can't lower that budget once you get more successful in your SEO strategies and you're filling that gap to hit your revenue goal with those other things in place. And that's the goal, right? Like, we want to try to get as close to our revenue goals as we can without paid ads so that, we have a smaller gap to fill in the end. But
Exactly, and that's something that we work on internally as well.
yeah.
Knowing that we work with a lot of tour operators, we often put our own work on the back burner at times because we're
Yep.
focused so much on external brands. And recently, we wanted to focus even more on our Google ads and improve them. And we had set it and forgot it for a little bit, in
Uh-huh.
the sense that we weren't focusing on it nearly as much as we know we should. And so we're trying to be better at that. And it's really easy to just waste money that way. And we realized we needed to up our budget because it had gotten to a point where that budget initially was working well, but things change, and now that budget was really getting us like 4 clicks a day. And so once we had 4 clicks, our budget was spent. And so that's not gonna get us very far, right? And so
Nowhere.
by looking at it regularly and knowing that these things change, it's not always like cost per click's the exact same every single time. We were able to better optimize and increase our budget. And we're hoping, I mean, this is happening now, so don't know the results, but we're hoping to see
Stay
better
tuned.
results from it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always thought about this when we're, like, trying to determine our own budgets, Greg. Not every so Google is mainly right now, there's other ways you could run Google Ads, but the majority is cost per click, right? So PPC, pay per click. So every single time somebody clicks on that ad, you're being charged, even if your competitor is clicking on your ad, right? You're being charged so many dollars, you know? So you need to have a big enough budget so that if you get, 10 clicks turns into one booking and so on and so forth. So that's really what it comes down to is how much is that cost per click, costing you.
Yep.
Um, can paid ads work if my brand isn't well known? I have a couple ideas regarding this question, Greg, but what do you think?
For me, I think they absolutely can. And honestly, I would say most brands aren't well known. And
Yeah,
so it depends on what you're using, right? Social media is going to be more for awareness to get your brand out there so people recognize you more. Google ads, like when I go and search Google for a tour, I'm doing this right now. We're exploring a trip to Greece, go in and cook like cooking tours, right? I don't know a single brand. None of them are well known to me. And so in that case, what's showing up at the top? What's looking the most trustworthy and authentic, right? Because for me, I'm looking for some sort of cooking class or tour that's just like authentic. Like if it's an 85-year-old grandma that's going to teach me, like I'm almost more likely to buy that than some like 20-year-old, right? Just because I want that authenticity. And so I'll see the ad, it's already unknown, but for me, it's what happens after
after.
I click that, right? If I'm taken to your website and you look like you're unknown, meaning you don't have a great website, it's not easy to navigate, it's not easy to find what I'm looking for, then no, paid ads aren't gonna work for you probably because your website's not any good. So if your website is set up for success, then absolutely it's gonna work for you even if you're known or not. What are your thoughts, Nikki?
Yeah, it's this is beyond paid ads, but it kinda goes with branding. What's really amazing about branding is you can allow the audience to have whatever perception of your brand that you want. You can make yourself seem bigger than you are. You can make yourself seem like you have a lot more trust factors than you actually do. That's the fun thing about marketing. I'm not saying to lie or fib or anything, but you can make you can make people think things about your brand that you want them to. So when people click on your ad, most likely they're not gonna know your competitor either, right? So they click on your ad, so it's, like, exactly what you said, Greg, is what perception do they have of your company now that they're on your website? And that's why it is so cohesive to, yes, be able to run successful ads, but then what happens on that landing page, or what happens after they abandon the tour and come off your website? What happens after that?
It's like more and more lately, brands are getting bigger faster than they used to because of all the different avenues that they have to advertise, right? So if you have a huge ad budget, you can go from not being known at all to being like one of the main brands people think about extremely quickly. Tourism's a little bit different because it's not the same as like apparel companies or whatever, but it seems like, I mean, I think of Stanley. They didn't just do paid ads, they did influencers. They had a huge marketing um campaign around reinvigorating their brand, right? Because Stanley's been around since the early 1900s. They were a totally different market. It was not like geared towards, women probably at all. It was more for the outdoor man, is what I pictured it as, because it was more camping type of rustic looking things. And when they use influencers, they also were running ads and they became a household brand like instantly, right? So it really depends on your budget. You're not going to make a huge difference, like Nikki was saying earlier, if you have a super low budget. Not saying go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars either. Find what works for you. And if it's working well, then increase your budget more. Our CEO Brandon is known for saying like marketing shouldn't have a budget. If I can spend $1 and earn 100, then I should spend $100 because I'm going to make even more.
Only if you have the systems and infrastructure in place, though, because you will break things.
Yes, yes,
Seems like
for
it's a
sure.
good problem to have, an over amount of an over abundant amount of leads and bookings, but like I said,
Yeah.
you don't want to
And that
target.
goes back to what I said earlier. If you only have room for 200 people, your
Yeah,
budget is going to be completely different than if you have unlimited space, right? You can just always bring more people, then you're going to be able to spend that much more to get those people.
yeah. Let's go on to how long does it usually take before ads start working? I actually think we went over this earlier because although Google Ads is quicker than, let's say, SEO, we're probably not making any guarantees at all. But when we're talking with a client, we're saying, you want to wait at least 6 months if you already have a solid foundation. If you don't have a solid foundation, we're waiting a year, 18 months, and beyond that to start seeing those rankings. Well, with Google Ads, we can see some much quicker results, but it's not going to happen overnight. But we typically will say to clients, you can expect after the ads have been warmed up and tested about a month or two to start seeing some form of consistent bookings coming in. And of course, it's going to depend on the seasonality and the budget that you're putting towards that and the competitiveness of the actual market. But rule of thumb, paid ads are usually going to be a faster result than SEO in other places. So,
Yeah. And I would say part of the reason it's maybe a month or two or more, especially in tourism, is there's a lot of longer booking windows, right? It's not like throwing an ad up for a pair of shoes where I might not be researching. I just know I want Nikes. And so Nike throws an ad up and I like the ad, I buy the shoe, right? Same day. They may have put that ad up yesterday.
mhm,
Whereas the buying cycle here is a little bit longer, especially for the more intense, longer trips that you have, or more like scary in the sense of like maybe people have more questions around them.
right.
And so since that buying cycle is longer, then it's just going to take longer for you to see those results as well. And then it also depends on your budget. Like we've talked about, if you're only getting 4 clicks a day, like we were, it's not going to show up as much um, for people searching. So that you might have 100 people searching, but only 4 people got to see your ad. And so that's important. And then seasonality, but not seasonality of your business. It's more, is there a seasonality of when people are planning, dreaming about your business and what you offer, right? And that might be hard to pin down, but if people are searching for, you know, an a hiking in France, if they're searching for that mostly in the winter and you're running your ads for it in the summer, then maybe it's not as effective. And so thinking of those type of things really leads you into that success. And it's something that we may touch on later, but making sure that you don't just turn your ads off because your season's over, because
Yeah.
you're most likely getting people that are researching your business, that are looking to buy during your off season as well. Like I know when I've gone river rafting, I'm not searching for river rafting companies just during their season. I'm not just searching during June. I'm looking at like March, February to kind of plan my trip out for June.
Yeah. And also, when we say like start working, like what does that even mean? Because we're running different kinds of campaigns. We could be running brand awareness campaigns, we could be running lead generation campaigns. This morning, so I redid our Facebook ads. And by redid, I just mean re-optimize and started some new campaigns. I'm doing a newsletter campaign, so if you see it, sign up for our newsletter. But basically, I'm going to attribute the success of it is if we get newsletter signups, because that's the goal of this campaign. And you could absolutely do that as a tour operator too. If you have a really great mailing list or lead magnet resource you want to send out to people, run ads on it. Get people to sign up for your newsletter if and only if you have a nurturing process for that. Don't just, run some ads to get a few email addresses and then you're not doing anything with those email addresses. So, how do paid ads help you reach your ideal customer instead of just more people? This is really important.
Yeah, that's that's the question of the year because you can throw money in, especially in the social, and maybe not get it in front of the right people. But there's also, you know, ways to address audiences in both, Facebook ads, Google ads. You can pull in audiences so that they're geared toward putting it in front of people that are most likely going to be your ideal customer. You're most likely still going to get people that aren't, but
Mhm.
it makes it a lot better than just being like, I'm going to run this ad and just send it out to everyone and hope that someone books, right?
So I'm going to caveat to that, Greg, because Facebook's new out with the algorithm, it is really smart right now. And what you want to do is actually have a broader audience and allow Facebook to kind of do its magic. That doesn't mean you just trust Facebook and let it go. You need to see, well, what kind of people are coming to my website because of this ad. So that's important too, is following these trends and following like remarketing. Should I be, retargeting people who have come to our website? Should I be targeting a colder audience based off of this type of campaign that I'm running? So it all depends on the type of campaign you're running
Yeah.
as
And
well.
I would say that's something that I don't see enough of is retargeting ads. If I've landed on your website and I never see anything from your website again, unless I search for your website or search the term that I found your website on again, like you're missing a huge opportunity, whether that's remarketing ads or emails, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like if you can get my information and retarget me, then you should. So with Google ads, Facebook ads, you don't have to actually get my email, but you can start retargeting me throughout other websites, throughout my search for other things. And that's just going to keep you top of mind.
And
Like more
usually,
and more, I'm seeing that on Facebook, but not in the tourism industry as
yeah,
much.
usually retargeting ads require a lower budget as well. So you're not having to spend a lot of money on those people that are already warmed up. So why wouldn't you? I think it comes down to not knowing how and not knowing, how to build that custom audience and retargeting and making sure that you have your pixel fired up on your website and all of those sort of things. So if you guys need any help with that, just shoot us a message. I'm happy to give you some guidance on that. All right, Greg, let's move along here. How do paid ads fit alongside SEO, OTAs, emails, and referrals?
Yeah, so we've kind of talked about this a little bit already. But it is just another piece of your overall marketing strategy, marketing and sales strategy. It doesn't replace the other channels per se. I think almost every business should worry about SEO, whether you are like referral based or not, because your SEO is going to lead into your AIO, so AI optimization. It's going to lead into other things. Now, if you're like 100% referral based, maybe it doesn't matter much, but most companies, the SEO you should always be focusing on. All the other channels are really what's working, what's not working, right? If you're doing paid ads, you're optimizing them, you're still not, you gave it a good run, you have a good budget, you're doing everything we're saying, and you're still not seeing results, then maybe it's not the right avenue for you. And so you should focus on your others. And same with OTAs. Like maybe you're putting too much into your OTAs where you could be getting more direct bookings by focusing more of your money towards paid ads. And so it's really just finding what's working, what's not working.
And I think that paid ads support as well the long-term growth, because it is going to allow you to create predictable visibility.
Yeah, one thing I love about Google Ads specifically and I guess Facebook and, social ads as well, is it allows you to target like on Google Ads, if I type in a certain search parameter, right? Most likely there's going to be some sort of keyword in there.
Mm.
And maybe that keyword, the SEO result that I'm showing up for is, my homepage, or maybe it's my category page, or a specific, like, if it's river rafting, maybe my river rafting page, right?
Mhm.
But what I can do with paid ads is I can target that same keyword, but now I can push a specific tour. Like maybe I'm underselling a specific rafting trip this year and I want to boost that. I can still like focus on the more broad keyword, but then when they come to my landing page, I can either send them directly to a page about that specific tour, or I can send them to a landing page that just emphasizes like, hey, you should really do this tour because it's amazing. Here's the other tours, but this is the one you should do, right? And so it allows you to kind of change up what your SEO might be showing people and push people down a funnel that you want them to go down to benefit your business the most.
Yeah, you can kind of like drive them in the direction that you want them to go. But again, that's not just saying, okay, I'm running some Google ads. Like it's doing those other things on your landing pages and making sure you wouldn't believe it, Greg. So many times we'll talk to a tour operator or just a business in general. And or actually I'll just click on an ad, not purposefully, like I don't want to charge them money because I know it costs, per click, but the ad will have nothing to do with the landing page, and it just baffles me. I'm like, "Oh my goodness." But, like, in an ideal world, wouldn't you want them to click on what they typed in on Google? They click on it, they go to a page that's exactly what they typed in on Google, because remember, they're people usually on Google, they're kind of in buying mode. Like, even though we're talking about the dreaming phase here, they're much more down the funnel than just, brand awareness and, like, just trying to, get your brand in front of people, like, on social media and Facebook ads. Usually, they're, like, ready to buy whether they know it or not. So let's convert them. And then when we're on that page, when we're talking about that specific thing that they typed into Google that they clicked on, we're now upselling them, or we're now giving them more information on something that we think that they'll find valuable. Um, and if they leave that page, well, guess what? They're getting Facebook retargeting ads to them, or Google remarketing ads, and emails. So it all works together.
Yeah, and
Greg,
I
is there
think I think paid ads, like, they really can support your long-term growth in the sense of how you're using them, right? If you're just using them to drive like a short-term spike, that they actually, like Google Ads, you can do that, right? Run an ad for 2 months because maybe, and I'll stay on rafting just because I understand it really well, but like maybe you have a really good water year. The water levels are like peak for a certain trip. And so you are going to run some short-term ads to really drive people to book that because it's just going to be great. Maybe like I'm assuming this summer, because Utah here where I live has had like no snow. It might not be the best year. And so now you might have some short-term spikes that you're pushing to other trips that you offer, or other locations that are maybe more predictable than the water levels that come through naturally. Who knows? And so there are these short-term spikes, but at the same time, paid ads can support that long-term growth by just constantly like being that piece to drive people into your website so that they're, no matter where they're at in the funnel, they're able to see your brand, they're able to find your brand and interact with your brand in ways that are going to keep them coming back as they're in that dreaming phase. I mentioned this earlier. We had a webinar yesterday that we did, and we talked about me planning my trip for going to Greece potentially. And I'm in the dreaming phase, and I have not received any retargeting messages from any of the websites I went to. And so at this point, I don't know any of the websites I went to.
you
I
forget.
literally had just searched like cooking tours in Greece and was looking at sites just to get information. because at the point I'm in, I'm really just trying to understand the cost. Is this even place that we can afford to go and do the things that we want to do? And it's a great time to, really nurture me through, because you don't have my email yet, most likely, but nurture me through these retargeting ads so that as I'm continue my dreaming phase, your company pops up. And that's where you're going to see this long-term growth with paid ads is now I'm on Facebook. I see something. Yeah, that's interesting. Let's click on it. Oh, honey, look at this. Like this looks like a really cool, cooking tour in Santorini. Maybe this is something we should do. And once we're like all in on Greece, then I'm gonna now remember you more than any others because I saw you more than just that one time.
And seeing them multiple times going to help you, them gain your trust, like whether you know it or not, going to that website and then seeing it as you're scrolling through Facebook, them pop up, you're going to be like, oh, wow, this is a legitimate company. And I think I want to go with them. Even if their competitor, you know, pops up somewhere else, down the funnel, you've already seen that, cooking class from that tour company 8, 10 times. So I
And
think
I'm different than a lot of people. Not everyone is like me. So don't take everything I say as like what exactly you should do. There's plenty of people that are gonna book if your website's a little, maybe not optimized, but always be thinking how you can make it better. A few
well,
years ago, I had a politician knock on my door and give me a flyer,
mhm.
and I jokingly said to him because he handed me the flyer, and he's like, "Hey, will you please vote for me?" And I looked at the picture, and it was pixelated, and I looked up at him without even thinking what I was saying to him or anything. I was like, "Sorry, I can't vote for someone that can't afford a picture that's not pixelated." And like, I that ended up not being like a determining factor. But in the moment, that's what I thought. Like, I legit was like, "You can't even put this like, make this nice, like, why would I vote for you?" Right? And it's the same with everything you're putting out there, like, do your best might still be a pixelated image, but what's the messaging around that? How can you then improve that the next time? So don't always feel like you have to be perfect right away. This is a slow process for many people, especially if you're a smaller single person operator, whatever it might be. Like just keep working to get better and better. Look
Mhm.
at your competitors out there. Look at people in your area that are doing a really good job
Yeah,
and
emulate
figure
them.
out how you can emulate them. Look at their ads. Look at the things they're running on Facebook and try to emulate them. Don't copy, don't steal, but try to have that same type of quality. Try to have that same type of, brand and understanding.
Few tips there is if you go to facebook.com/ads/library, you could type in any company that's running ads and you could see, what Facebook ads they're running and absolutely don't copy them, but get inspired by them, people that aren't your competitors, or maybe they're, they run a similar tour in a different area, see what they're doing. It's a great way to generate some ideas. I do it myself and I'm curious what other ads people are running. And then also, when you're optimizing strategically your landing pages and whatnot, there's tons of free tools out there. Greg, is Microsoft Clarity free?
Yeah. Microsoft Clarity is free. It's a heat map,
Mhm.
like click tracking software. You just put a little bit of script on your website, and now you can go and watch recordings of how people are interacting on your
Yeah.
website, see heat maps, see click maps. Super great tool
It
that's 100% free.
I mean, and we talk so much today about making sure that you have landing pages that are built to convert. And how do you know if they're built to convert if you're not testing and trying different things and seeing where people are actually not clicking or they are clicking? And, just having that information that you could take and say, okay, I need to change this or I need to adapt this or, hey, this is working really well. Um, so just utilize what you can.
Yeah, that's
And
probably a whole nother podcast or webinar, but just briefly, like those videos can really impact how you build a landing page. Let's say someone comes to your landing page and you see that a lot of people keep going and clicking on your logo. Well,
it's not
historically,
clickable.
logos, well, yeah, and it might not be clickable because a lot of landing pages, you purposely don't want them to go to the rest of your website, right? You're trying to focus
Definitely.
them down a certain funnel, but they're clicking on your logo because historically that takes you to the homepage, which then allows you to see more,
Uh-huh.
right? And so think through why are they doing that? They're obviously looking for something that is usually able to be found from going back to your homepage. Maybe it's the navigation that they're searching for because you're missing something that they're needing on the landing page. And so looking at those type of things are really going to help you uh, understand, how you can optimize. But can I add something before we wrap up here, Nikki?
Yes, I bet you I know what it is, but go ahead.
So I want to talk about AI
Hey,
ads.
I was gonna ask
Like
you a question, but go ahead.
AI is like everywhere right now, right? Week or two ago, ChatGPT announced we're starting to test AI ads. So this is something that is rolling out, something that is going to happen. And we know very little about how it's going to work and what it's going to cost and all of that. But just know it's coming. And it's from what I've seen and heard, it might be a great opportunity for you to jump in while costs are really cheap to get a lot of good clicks. I think what AI ads are going to be, how they're going to be better than Facebook or Google, is they're going to be so much more context aware. They're going to be way more conversational, and they're not going to be like annoying, right? When I'm on Facebook, I'm scrolling. Sometimes I just scroll right past the ads because it's like that's
It
not
makes
what I'm worried about right now,
yeah.
right? Whereas when I'm in an AI search and there's a contextual ad in place, if it's answering the question I'm looking for, it's gonna be that much easier for people to click and find what they need from those ads. So it's coming. Get ready. We'll probably talk about it once we know more about it,
Yeah, yeah,
but just be aware that that landscape's changing and it might be a game changer for your
yeah.
business.
We have our paid ads team kinda working on, is this right for is this going to be a good path for our tour operators? Should this be something that we're strategizing with them? So we're trying to figure it out so that, we can guide you guys in the right direction. But all right. Well, that's a wrap for episode 5. Thank you all for taking a listen to us as we talked about paid ads. I'm really excited to continue the growth engine journey as we finish up the dreaming stage. We have a couple more opportunities within the dreaming stage that we are going to be talking about before we move on to the next stage of the growth, the ResMark growth engine. But we're so glad you guys are tuning in. If you have any feedback, any questions, you want to jump on a call, we are so happy to do that. And we'll see you next week on episode 6. Bye, everyone.